Hello, welcome to Marketing for Manufacturers, Planning for Success and Sales. This webinar is powered by FuseHub, hosted by FuseHub in partnership with Industrial Strength Marketing. Welcome, we're very happy that you've taken the time to join us this morning. So to get started, let's talk about FuseHub. FuseHub is the statewide Manufacturing Extension Partnership Center, or MEP Center in New York State. We're part of a federal and state network that exists to help small to medium manufacturers like you. How do we help you? Well, we provide expertise and assistance. We make connections to the many assets that New York State provides. And so we help you solve the business and technical challenges that you face. We also coordinate initiatives and events. For example, if you are in the Buffalo area and you are a medical device manufacturer, you will not want to miss the Solutions Forum that we're having there in a couple of weeks on May 13th. FuseHub, in short, is a gateway to resources. We're a navigator. We help you find the assistance that you need. I like to think of it as one-stop shopping. You can make 74, 75 phone calls if you prefer, or you can call one place, FuseHub, and get to where you need to go. So before we begin, let's talk about Q&A. I know there'll be lots of questions. Please feel free to submit them at any time via the GoToWebinar console or controller, but we're going to hold off on the Q&A until the end, but still don't hesitate to ask them. So let's talk about some of the voices and put them to the faces that you'll see on your screen. The guy at the left, the bearded guy, that's me, Steve Melito. I'm a matching specialist for FuseHub. I'm your host. The real stars of the show here are Kim Lloyd, who was FuseHub's Director of Special Products, or Projects rather, and most importantly, and James Soto, who is the founder and CEO of Industrial Strength Marketing. All right, hey, one last teaser before we start. There's going to be another webinar in this series, Marketing for Manufacturers. Mark your calendars now. It's going to be on June 11th at 10 a.m. and look for an email from FuseHub as well where you can sign up. And with that, we're going to go over to Kim Lloyd. And Kim, welcome.
Hey, Steve, thank you for the introduction. My name is Kim Lloyd. I have a lot of experience, just to give you a little bit about my background, building websites and doing marketing for probably 20 years now. So I was building websites when there was no nice WYSIWYG way of doing it. So just slugging it out on with code and hoping that everything looked okay when you loaded the page. So I wanted to talk today about creating websites and give you some really good examples of what to look for in creating a website and what considerations to take into account. In addition, I wanted to give you a checklist of things to consider as you're thinking about building a new website. So let's start off with some stats. Some of this is probably stating the obvious. Obviously, you know that your website is extremely important. Your market presence, brand strength, and presentation are really the three major things people look at. Case studies and social media are very close behind those, and that's because all of these things together really make an impact into your marketing and your market presence. These stats came from Thomas. I'm sure that some of you already work with Thomas or may know of them. ThomasNet has a sourcing database on the internet for finding parts and things along those lines. So they did a survey of the manufacturers that are on their website, and this is some of the information they came up with. The other thing that's important about your website is the quality really impacts your buyer's decision to partner or use your company. So if it takes them more than 30 seconds to find what they're looking for, they will leave. So it's extremely important to have very, very clean navigation to your website. The other thing that I wanted to point out that's specific to the manufacturing industry, and this came from Web Strategies, is that how much do manufacturers spend in marketing compared to other industries, especially other B2B product industries? So manufacturers, an average company will spend about 6.4% of their revenue on marketing. Manufacturers do half of that, so that's 3.2%. And some things that we find with manufacturers, that we see a lot of manufacturers who really depend mainly on their salespeople to be their marketing and market and brand ambassadors. So they're not necessarily investing as much in marketing as they are in sales. And I think that also means that their web presence sometimes suffers as a result of not having that kind of spend focused on marketing. So who should your website cater to? It's really important to think about who your audiences are and what we call the customer journey or the buyer journey. So understanding how your buyers buy and what they need, what that life cycle is, and what objections they have along the way, and making sure that you're incorporating your customer or buyer journey into that particular, into your website. So if they like to do research in a very specific way and then be able to do their own discovery, you can enable that using your website. So everybody thinks about buyers, but there are also a lot of other audiences that use your website. So salespeople. If each salesperson may have a different or unique way of potentially selling your product, and making sure that they're using your website to help engage your prospects within the sales cycle could be key to making sure your website is helping your salespeople who are doing direct sales potentially close deals. The other audience are your sales and distribution channels. And I'm going to give you some examples of these so that you can see how other manufacturers may have incorporated these thought processes and these audiences into their website. So if you sell through distributors, do you have an area on your website that talks about why should you carry my product versus somebody else's product? And what's the process of me becoming a distribution channel of your product? Google is also a really, really important audience to your website. If Google cannot understand and dissect your website, you will lose keyword rankings and you will lose traffic to competitors who are better at having a very Google-friendly, readable website. And I think that the manufacturing webinar 2, the manufacturing will cover more of that topic. But I just wanted to give a nod to it because Google needs to understand your website. Competitors. So look at your competitor websites, see what they're doing well, see what they're not doing well, and make sure that you're incorporating your competitive differentiators into your website. Again, I'll give some examples of that. Investors and owners, they also care about your website. You want to make sure that they're going through your website and they feel proud that they're associated with your company. Pride is a big deal for investors and owners. Industry followers. If you have some influencers or magazines that follow you and your industry, make sure that you're putting good content out there and that it's really, really easy to find key items about your industry or hooks about your industry that they would want to promote or that they would want to, maybe you're linking back to them. So find co-marketing opportunities with industry followers in social media audiences and industry influencers. So let me give you some examples of that so that you know what I'm talking about. Let's go over to KeySite. So I'm just gonna drag my window over here. When I say talk about segmenting buyer audiences, if you take a look here, you can see that they've done a really, really good job doing that. They have a picture of a person and then talks about whether they're designer or in QA, they're in manufacturing, they're a service provider, they're in IT security. So they're really trying to figure out who you are, and they're going to traffic you through the website differently based on who you are. The other way that they've segmented their industry, their buyers, is by industry. So you can see here that they have all the industries listed, and as you hover over, you can kind of see what their solution is for that industry. The other nice thing that they've done is they put in these metrics that really jump out at you to say, why work with KeySite, okay? So these are kind of the credentialing type of metrics that tell you 25 of the top 25 tech companies use them, and so on and so forth. So this is to give yourself credibility. So that's a good example of that. This particular website, even though it's not very pretty, Ayala World, has a whole dealer wanted section. So what's cool about that is that they end up talking about their dealers, and what's nice about this, they say they're looking for dealers and distributors. They tell you exactly why you would want to carry their product. They have the advantages listed here, rapid customer service. It gives you all the steps so that you know what to expect when you sign up as a distributor. And then they give you a nice contact form. So it tells a story, why, what to expect, and then how to reach out and get started. So if you're selling through a distribution channel or whatever channel you might be selling to, you want to make it really, really easy to do business with you. Determine what really matters to you. So if you want competitive differentiators, you need to really make sure that you highlight those competitive differentiators. Are you competing on quality? I don't know how many times I've gone to a website and I see, wow, we have the best quality. We pride ourselves on our quality. And then that's it. That's all they say on the website. There's no indication that that quality is really carried through or really adopted, or are they just using quality as a buzzword? And I'm going to show you a website that does a good job with that. The credentials, we talked about the credentials. You know, knowing that 25 of the top 25 companies in the world use your product, that's important to know. Delivery, do you pride yourself on on-time delivery? Are you a supplier or part of a supply chain? How is your delivery? What are you doing to make sure and ensure that you have just on time delivery and you're meeting any delivery criteria they have? Are you competing on expansive offering? Maybe your competitors only offer 1 or 2 options and you offer a bunch more options. So being able to describe your offering and how expansive it is compared to others would be important. Or maybe you focus on just 1 or 2 things where your competitor's trying to boil the ocean. Again, depending on how you're differentiating yourself, you want to make sure you spin that positively on your website. Your people, they want to know that you're dealing with a real person behind the scenes. They don't want this nameless, faceless company. You've got to be real. It's sometimes showing your team even though they're, maybe not models, that's okay. We want to know that there's real people behind and there's pride in your company. Experience. A lot of times, if you've been in business for a long time, that you want to highlight your experience and make sure people understand that you've been there and done this before. And then, like I said in the earlier metric, are you easy to do business with? And your website and the navigation of your website is super, super important, because with over 70% of people, when doing research to find new products using Google, using their website, if your website's hard to navigate, they're going to think it's hard to do business with you. So here's a company that really does a good job with what I was talking about as far as quality goes. So see where it says quality through to the finish. Let me just bring up the quality through the finish. Now, if they just said that and didn't do anything else and said quick turnaround, superior quality, that would be a perfect example of just giving lip service, but not really doing anything about it. But if you go to their company page, which I think this is a little bit buried, if I were them, I would have had a navigation on their website that talked about quality. And by the way, I missed one key aspect, which was sustainability. So that's a huge buzzword now, and we know that sustainability is important in all aspects, including processing, manufacturing, anything, if you have sustainability or green as part of your competitive differentiator, it goes without saying that you would be able to make sure that that was very, very clearly relevant on your website. But if you look to company and see quality through to the finish, and they tell you what aspects about what they do is incorporating quality, the other thing that they do is they have this really cool diagram where they show you step by step where they're putting quality into the production process or the manufacturing process. So all this is kind of buried under company, and like I said, I probably would have pulled it out into its own page, but that's one thing you could do. All right, another great example of things that you need to do. You really need to get your salespeople caring and involved in creating testimonials and case studies. If your salespeople aren't talking to your customers and telling them, hey, we need your help, we would love to be able to talk about your project in some way, shape, or form. And the salespeople a lot of them do not want to bother doing that because they're afraid of hurting the relationship. But honestly, it's so important for your salespeople to have good enough relationships with your customers that they are more than willing to be able to share their testimonial or share their case study on your website. Super important. You can genericize it, yes. If push comes to shove and they're uncomfortable, they're okay with you using certain aspects, nothing IP oriented about the project, then that's fine. You could hide the IP part of what you're doing for them, but try to do it where you're actually getting the customer name, because saying Bill H is just not as impactful. This website is really awesome. This website was done by Mannix Marketing. They're in Glens Falls area, and they have these great, very visual. Now, not everybody's building water parks, so they have kind of an advantage here. But you can see how they have their work incorporated, and they've got all these beautiful case studies. They have a nice call out right here in the right-hand rail to really allow somebody visiting their website to engage and raise their hand and say, yeah, this looks great. The other thing that they've done is they've incorporated, they have it in our work, But cross-linking, when you're building your website and you've got different case studies and you're addressing different industries, see if you could get those case studies to show up right within your right within the industry pages too, so that you're cross-promoting content, especially case studies, within your industries pages. So that's another tidbit that's really, really important. The last piece I wanted to talk about was the online gallery, and then I'm starting to run out of time here. But this company has done a great job in designing their website. It's a beautiful website, and they have also put their products online. Now, you don't have to allow your clients to purchase online yet. You can do something like this to request a quote. So they've got a nice catalog here, and they make it very easy to request a quote for any one of these products. But what I would say to them is they're kind of losing out on some SEO or Google love by not having product detail pages. So if I want to be able to be found for a multi-stage process API pump, namely the Carver pump, I would probably want to be able to click and have a product detail page and be able to not only request a quote from this, but request a quote from the product detail page, which is great, what we call SEO food for Google. So that is, let me go back to this. So to wrap up, let me just give you some considerations for your website. Domain name. Everybody falls in love with, let me put my product name, or let me come up with this really cool domain name for my company. Use your brand name. You having a different brand or company name that's different from your website is extremely challenging. There are other tips and techniques that you can use without having a very confusing path from your company name to some obscure domain name. Make sure that when you're doing your redesign, that your website redesign firm are looking at your URLs and making sure that when they launch your new website, those URLs map or are 301 redirected. The last thing you want to do is have a #1 placement for API pumps and then lose that because you completely changed the URL of that page and now Google can't find it anymore. I'm a big WordPress fan, but the Squarespace does have its place. If you're just doing a brochureware site and you don't plan on having a huge online catalog, you don't plan on doing a lot with your website, then Squarespace is a good way and an inexpensive way of getting up and running quickly in an environment where you'd be able to update your own pages. Otherwise, I recommend WordPress if you want to get a little bit more robust. Make sure you're checking your mobile and your website's responsive. Test your load speed. Google will ding you for keyword rankings if your page takes too long to load. And then most importantly, make sure your website is completely integrated with your sales team and that you're making sure that any leads you give your salespeople from your website are being followed up on. And so integrating into any forms that are on your website or any chat windows that are on your website with your sales team and making sure that they're following up is super important. The last thing you want to have happen is somebody submits a request and then 2 weeks later they get somebody from your sales team to follow up. So marketing and sales automation, everybody hears about HubSpot and all these other marketing and sales automation. If your website's not getting the traffic, don't invest in those yet. They're just overkill. So this is the marketing for manufacturers too. I'm not going to go into this. This would be the kind of the next stage that I would have covered. I ran out of time to go through the case study, but I'll share this PowerPoint with you guys. This is a website that we redesigned, the before, which had a bunch of the issues that are listed on the right, and then the after, some of the things that we've done to the website in order to make it easier and incorporate some of the things that we talked about today. So at the end, we have got some helpful links and resources, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions at the end of this webinar. Thank you.
Hey, Kim Lloyd, that was fantastic. Thank you very much. And we're very lucky to have Kim here with us at Fuse Hub. She does a great job for us. Also wanted to mention again, there's a QA session at the end. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. You can ask them in the little chat window, and we'll answer them at the end. Also wanted to mention that the next part of our presentation will be James Soto, who is the founder and CEO of Industrial Strength Marketing. James, take it away.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Really pleased to be here this morning. And thanks so much to the folks at Fuse Hub. What y'all do for manufacturing is amazing, and your mission and vision is worth seeing through. So thank you so much for what you do for manufacturers all throughout the Northeast and New York. So hello, everyone. So yeah, let's all stretch, and it's getting further into the morning, and I'm just really pleased to speak to brand really as a business strategy. And a lot of what you'll hear today actually relates to what you heard from Kim. So just by way of introductions, to introduce myself, I am James Soto, the founder and CEO of Industrial. We are a brand and business consultancy focused squarely on the industrial sector. We have a lot of brands in our orbit, in my orbit, and I think we all do. And so just by ways of introduction, I have founded Industrial Strength Marketing, and that is an organization that's really focused on helping industrials make marketing the strength of their business. You may know of us as also just Industrial, and that's really the agency brand. We publish the largest blog for and by industrial marketers. That's Industrial Marketer, and that's the publication brand in our organization. And just like you as manufacturers or distributors or industrial services companies, you also have productized brands. And so we have a product called Stockpile, which is addressing the fact that a lot of CRM systems fail and there's a lack of transparency on lead generation results. And so we've created a qualitative tool where people can instantly get an SMS alert, an email, and they just say if it's good, bad, or ugly lead. And also managers can see response times of leads that are critical. So you really can extend some ways of really seeing how the efforts you're investing in work well without a technological implementation to do it. And finally, our productized brand Market Strong is really focused on lead generation for small to medium-sized manufacturers, folks who'd rather partner than build. For the cost of hiring, senior marketer, you get about $1.2 million worth of people, technology, and systems who really attract leads. We nurture them until they're ready to generate leads, and ultimately that nurturing is extended until they're ready to talk to sales and beyond. So those are how we've extended brand in some respects, but our brands go with us through our travels. And in my background, I was brought on to Thomas Publishing back when they were transitioning from the print world to a set of digital properties, and I ran their largest geographic territory, and I was on that team to really help with that digital transformation process. And part of that led to really seeing the greater need around the manufacturing segment and how they really ultimately need to make marketing the strength of their business. And I created the agency really with a vision to help industrials, the leaders, and their marketers be better marketers and sellers of their industrial products and services. And so, and then brand is now extending to us as individuals, as influencers. So if Industrial's the agency brand, if Industrial Marketer is the publisher brand, I am the influencer brand. And part of my job, and my team loves this, is to get me out of the office and really just do things like this to just help other people. And I'm also working on a passion project called Nashville Made, and that's where our headquarters is. And that's to really make way for makers and manufacturers in Nashville. My wife has a startup called Spatial. So brand really reaches us wherever we go. So let's just get into it. So what is a brand, right? What is brand in the aspect of this conversation? And brand has many definitions, and ultimately It's the essential truth of the organization, the value of its product and service. It's the communication of its characteristics, your values, and those attributes that clarify what you are, what your brand is, and what it is not. And ultimately, it should encourage you and someone to say, hey, this is what I am, this is why I exist. If you agree, like me, you can buy me, follow me, support me, and recommend me to your friends. Jeff Bezos once said, your brand is not is really what others say about you when you're not in the room. And so in the spirit of this presentation, this conversation, really, you have to start with clarity, brand clarity, so that everybody understands it. It's the undercurrent of all the downstream marketing activity. Before a single line of art, prose, copy, code is delivered, you got to dig in deep to really get those root cause issues that will help or hinder you, find those buried treasures so that you can really take the most of your marketing and sales efforts. What a brand is not is a logo. Make sense? So another way, just for your use after this session's over, is just to kind of look at it from this point of view. From a rational point of view, it is a name, it is a term, it's a sign, it's a symbol, or the combination of them. And that helps us identify. A lot of folks think brand is a logo, it's this rational definition, and that's the thing that we can see and experience. The emotional definition means a lot, and that's that experiential perception, how you feel about that product and service, that emotional response. And for instance, Southwest Airlines, that's love. Do you feel the love? And they joke with you, when you're landing, and that's the kind of thing that is very intentional. Even how they write copy is all about love. It's the pictures coming down, when you're going down the gate and about to enter the plane. Look at how that brand is really executed, and ultimately, brand is meaning, and it's a promise. And what is the promise of your organization? And so those are things that hopefully give you some more clarity on the power of brand. So for today, brand is a business strategy. It starts with, if you want to be a class leading manufacturer or whatever you do, you have to have a crystal clear vision out there. You have to understand your mission and values, and they have to be shared by all. You gotta have the right people in the right seats who use core values to guide their behavior and really leverage those beliefs to identify and solve issues. And that is the spirit that I hope that we can have this conversation today. And so, there's a lot of great frameworks, and I know folks try to figure this stuff out, but ultimately, when you're challenged to really look at brand, there's great resources for you to use. And I really encourage you to do this as an industrial marketer or as a leader. I think it's the best work you can do, because successful manufacturing brands operate, with a crystal clear vision, mission, values. They have the right people in the right seats that use that core value to really, like I said, identify those issues. But what they do have is organizational health as a priority for everyone, to make sure that there's trust, communication, and accountability. Really, brand should guide how you act. And so, you ever hear that statement? It takes, vision, teamwork to make the dream work. That's what's going to get you to the promised land. And for any of you that are a leader in your manufacturing business, you have to act as really the leader of the brand effort. And for all of you that are industrial marketers or aspiring to be, you have an amazing opportunity to be the facilitator, the trusted advisor in this journey, so that we can pull out from us as leaders, like, where's the business going? If there is no clarity on what your brand is, you cannot use it to help the business grow strategically. That's just a fact. So organizational health is where you start. It provides the context for what happens within, and that's the biggest factor, period. And if you're going to read a book and get some reference and really look at a tool that we believe you should actually start with, Patrick Lencioni, The Advantage, is a great thing to really consider. So I'm going to just ask a few questions, like everybody stretch. Everybody good? All right, good. And let's just really talk about a few things to set the tone for brand. So in your GoToMeeting, you should see a chat session. Feel free to just hit a chat on some of these questions, but But I think I'll just think about this first question just to start. In your market, for what you do, what brand or company comes first to mind? So, and what brands are on the top 3 of that list? If the answer is not you, you have a brand problem. I'm an optimist, but you also have a brand opportunity. And if no one's owning that segment, or if they do, I think that's what you really have to think of. Here's a question you can certainly use the chat section just to answer. Who here just put me? Who's a custom or contract manufacturer? Anyone here work in the manufacturing business as a custom or contract manufacturer? You make things, parts, components, machining, fabrication, anything like that? Anyone here? Okay. Well, as you look at that, let's kind of tee in on custom and contract manufacturing, because they make up a lot of who we see out there in manufacturing. If you cannot figure out what makes you unique and differentiated, and if you're really looking at brand as a business strategy, there's 27,000 custom manufacturers of all shapes and sizes out there. And if you are a job shop, are you a commodity? How do you really break out from them? And I think Kim did a great job speaking about, from the website perspective, how do you really start to kind of really show what makes you truly different? That is going to be a key question to consider. And also, another question to consider is, if you are all like your salesperson, your marketer, your executive team, and someone from operations or service were to sit down at a table and write down one question and one sentence, what does your business do? Would all 4 of those people write down the same exact thing? If not, I think you have a major opportunity. It's exactly because of that lack of clarity, alignment, and ability to democratize your brand that you're really not set up to reach your potential. And if you can get clear on brand as a business strategy, you will have a massive advantage. So 3 things we're going to cover in the time we have together is it starts with clarity. Set a stage for crystal clear vision and health. 2, use systems out there to build your brand blueprint. It is one of the most unifying efforts. All 3 stages, I believe, are. And 3rd, you got to roll it out. Once you can really get clear on who you are, where you're going, how you're going to get there, and you have some reference, you can actually communicate at scale. That's the massive promise that you have. So in starting with clarity, that's where you begin. Get that crystal clear path there. So ultimately, this is a tool that we've used and we've even operationalized as an agency, both internally but also for our clients. A lot of times, and I think who's felt this, you may have some real issues on clarity within the organization. It's tough to get the vision out of the leader. And if you come in and say, hey, we're going to do a brand project or branding project, and we're going to build a website, we're going to do a marketing campaign, and you don't have these fundamental real issues worked out, your first job is to get yourselves and your leaders, or you as a leader, get yourself ready to do the brand work and the marketing. That's a big thing we've learned over the years as an agency. The manufacturing brand, we've built and helped launch that initiative. We've worked with icons of industry and those aspiring to be. And fundamentally, what we found over the years, our first job is to get them ready for marketing. So as the leader, you must begin or get your help from your team or your leading marketer or partners to really establish that clarity. And once that's in stage set, you'll be in good shape. So you start with, why do we exist? The why. If we don't know why we exist, NASA had let's explore the heavens. Tesla, their initial mission was to transition the world to sustainable transport. That's transitioned to Tesla is now to transition the world to sustainable energy since Tesla Energy came in. What is your moonshot? It should seem audacious. How do we behave in the work with your leadership team? One of the things that you really have to look at is how you behave. Those behaviors become the opportunity to really create the core values of the organization. and they should guide how you speak, how you write, like what you do, what's inbounds, what's out of bounds individually and as an organization. And then what is that one thing we do? We connect industrial buyers with suppliers, or we help you make marketing the strength of your business, or we exist to, go on. Ours is our mission, our passion, our purpose, and our cause is really to better those who design, make, and move the world as a total organization. How will we succeed? That starts to get into the vision, the things we're going to do. But what's most important right now, and who does what? Once that clarity is there, you are ready to take step 2, that blueprint. And that blueprint allows you to really create a construct for everyone to reference. And that's what you would typically find when you say, hey, we're going to do a branding project. And again, if you're doing a logo, you're really not working on brand. And I think one of the things you want to look at is a cupcake. If you look at a cupcake, a lot of organizations have like ping pong tables and perks and different, little, trust fall things that happen. They have whatever they have. We have beer in our, on tap at our office. We do have ping pong tables. We do have a video game situation. But let me tell you, that is not culture. That is not part of the brand. That is the frosting, icing on the cupcake. The cake is culture, is core values, and it's truly the essence of your brand. And so that, if you can get that down, the rest of that stuff are just perks. So brand, here are some of the essential elements that we would like to give to you to really use to guide some of the definition. So the mission, right? What is our mission? Folks get involved in mission statements all the time. Our mission is to facilitate the transition of synergies and blah, blah, blah. Forget that. If it's not something understandable, conversational, it's jargon. A single statement must capture the essence of your experience. It's the compass that designs everything around the development of your brand. It's simple, impactful, comes from the heart. It's bigger than you. We exist to better those who design, make, and move the world. This should never change. NASA, we exist to explore the heavens. That is why are you getting up for work every day? And those core values, one of the tools that I would like to introduce you to is like one of the exercises we use is like we would encourage you, like when as a leadership team you're looking at core values, and don't do this with your staff in there, because sometimes you find folks don't exhibit the core values you want. But when you're really looking down, you're looking at core values, start to get some sticky notes and post-it notes, start writing down who are the people, just their names that just really represent like the best people in your organization. And then next, when you kind of agree on those names, those set of names, like what are the things that they do? Like, man, this one works hard. This one like really goes beyond extra. This one's just so amazing. And you start to see what true core values that you actually own. And you can start to rally around them to really look at how you behave. And in core values, we 3 to 5 is usually, max 5 usually. I don't know. There's no real rules here, but not all of them you truly own. They're aspirational. But if you know that, and you're working hard on that, go for it. Like go for an aspirational core value. But you've got, and honestly, that guides a lot of our strategic work internally and with what we do. And so that's the mission is the why, the core values is the how we behave, and the brand promise is that benefit you offer to the market. Our benefit is to help you be a better marketer and seller of your industrial products and services. Pretty straightforward. Everyone on our team, everyone. What's the what we do? We help manufacturers, industrials be better marketers and sellers of their industrial products and services. You have to know that. We can communicate at scale. That's the power of brand. And so that personality really gets to how you behave and are you conversationally relaxed. I haven't worn a tie in years in the office. Like you start to kind of look at those, and I'll get more deeply into them in a sec. And then the target market. If you don't know what you're going after, and you have to reach those stakeholders and prioritize who you want to focus on and who you're speaking to and how you speak to them. And those are all communicated internally. Externally, the brand descriptor, the what, what we do. That's also another version of it. We help we connect industrial buyers with suppliers, like Thomas used that for years, and tagline the why, and that's that often can evolve as appropriate. So those are some definitions that can help you. So again, you've heard me say our mission, and I'm using us as an example because I'm the founder of this organization. I've assumed all the risk in the business. People and their families and our clients' families are counting on us. And why I'm showing this example, and I'd be happy to show a client, is because I'm the leader. And if I can't get folks to really go to war, and if I don't live by the core values and they don't understand why, and if they don't want to better those who design making the world, move the world, we're not on the same mission. Those core values guide how we behave every single day. People I learned don't work for me, they work for their families, right? They want to pursue their passions and do the work they're meant to do. I had a choice as a leader to decide what business I wanted to create. Everything we do is to serve each other and our families. No one on my team can work here because we don't want to let each other down. And our clients are counting on us as well. And we question the status quo. The inevitable outcome of our growth is we're going to hit a glass ceiling. Marketing, communications, and technology is changing. It's crazy. If we do not question the status quo, we will be left behind. Big movement we're working towards is automation, experimentation, analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and marketing. It's crazy, even for small businesses. And we roll up our sleeves. Nothing is above us, beneath us, and not possible. You got to roll up your sleeves. And tough love. Hey, James, you're a leader, but man, this is what you can keep doing. This is what you can stop doing. But hey, man, here's what you can do more of. No one's immune to that, client side and agency side. And we deliver and we delight. And let me tell you, building an organization that just delivers and delivers, that's great, but you're not going to rise up if you don't delight. So those are just ours. And so that brand promise to help industrials be better marketers and sellers of their industrial products and services, more and more clients are taking over their tech stacks. They're doing things. We meet them where they're at. And at the end of the day, that's just a great relationship. And then let's talk about brand as a business strategy. One of the most powerful things if you do this is you can begin to position your organization to an unassailable position. And that is, we are industrial. The number one thing that your clients say to you and say to us is, why did we get hired? Because you're industrial, you know us, you're where we're at. We Kaizen, continuously improve, which is change for the better, especially in marketing, you have to do that. And we exist to serve clients. They pay us. We center on the client so they can center on their customers. Those are the things that we look at. And so the reasons to believe, all of these things you would see. And those are the things that you actually build a positioning statement. And so if you want to connect with me, I'll have my LinkedIn information and all of those things. I have another exercise for you that's actually a really great guide to create a positioning statement, and it's a great formula. And this one's based on the industrial group at Stanley Black & Decker for their DeWalt product line. So as you build the brand out, these frameworks have other things, like who are the target personas and people that you're actually targeting. Man, when you can zero in on your brand, who you are, where you're going, who's your target market, who's the target persona, then now all of a sudden you're losing like waste and efficiencies. You're focusing on your niche, and nailing your niche is really key. And so your products and services line with the people you're going after and the segments that you're best reaching, and then the brand personality. But ultimately, if they don't know the vision, like, hey, what does this look like in the vision? What's the vision? We want to be the best as perceived by our clients, peers, and partners. So these are frameworks you can use. This is really advanced stuff. There's firms charging, $50,000 to $150,000 to guide you through these. They're essentially through these frameworks, and these are the very tools we use. And we had the pleasure, and one of our clients is the MEP National Network, NIST, Manufacturing Extension Partnership. And so we worked to do a first rev on a framework like this, the why do we exist, to strengthen US manufacturing, their core values. They're walking them out now. Those are the things you can use as a tool to precede your marketing efforts. A website is great, but if you're using that as the mechanism to make these very big decisions on focus, mission, vision, values, your differentiated proposition, great quality, great precision in manufacturing, great turnaround time, that's not a differentiator, that's an expectation. And when you can find those unassailable key points of differentiation, that's great. I told you ours, we're industrial, we Kaizen, and we center on the client. No competitor of yours, whether you're a job shop, you're a distributor, you're an automation company, they can share one, they can share two, but they can't share three of your key differentiators. That's the hard work of getting to brand. So as we wrap up, you have internal language, and that's the blueprint. And that's literally, you can print it out. Everybody can democratize it. It's simple, it's natural language, it's conversational. I motivate my people every day when they exhibit a core value. We call out each other when we don't. And as a next level, and I didn't include it here, is we build actually an external narrative. And that's what informs all the content and creative and assets and the marketing that you do. So lastly, you got to roll it out. You got to lead the way, communicate at scale, and you're going to win. So real quick, the leader has to walk this out. The leader has to walk it out. She has to deliver it. That's the most important step of all. And if you are an industrial marketer, your massive career opportunity is to help them to get ready with organizational health and clarity, to use a framework on the brand. But when you're introducing it to your entire organization, the leader must deliver it. And when they do it, everyone is included, everyone. And when you start to talk about, here's the mission and here's why, here's our core values and how we behave, you start to go to those same people that you called out and said, remember Joe? Joe worked late. We don't value just working late and not being with your family, one. Two, Joe rolled up his sleeves. He worked hard, and that's a core value. And so as you go through this and you show how you use the team to build that and how you guide that to make decisions, what we do is we actually create a scorecard saying core value plus, minus, or minus. When we're hiring, when we're doing reviews, and if you, for all of our core values, have a plus, great. If you have a plus minus, we start having some serious chats. Man, deliver and delight, really? And by the way, if they get a minus, they can't work here anymore and they cannot get hired in the first place. We absolutely use it as a tool to hold ourselves accountable. And I'm not even immune to it. So that is a great tool. And what it does is actually our team self-polices itself. People know when they're out of alignment, and they bark when someone's not on the mission, they're not in the vision, they're not in the values, they're not focused and centered on the customer, for instance. That's the power of brand. Live it, love it, own it. My name is James Soto. I am so pleased to share my vision as a leader in brand as a really business strategy, because when you do this and your clients will know it, and you've nailed your niche and you've focused on what you're doing, you'll be in an unassailable position. You absolutely can command a premium for what you do if you really micro niche your market. There's 47,000 agencies for us in the United States. I look at 20, and I seriously look at maybe 6. That narrows down the field, gives us an opportunity. And the only thing I ask for you is to keep the conversation. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, DM me, and I will send you that that positioning statement exercise. It's really important and it's really easy. And I'd love for you to just really join me. We're launching our pod next month that takes our video channel to a podcast. I'd love to have you as part of our community on industrial strength marketing. And I get into all the issues that industrial marketers and their leaders face. So thank you. Sorry, it took a little bit more time, but this has been wonderful. And that's it for me.
All right, James Soto, that was fantastic information. Thank you very much. What a tremendous opportunity to listen and learn today. And now we have some time for some questions here at the end still, so let's go right into them. So let's do an important one right away. How can I register for the next Marketing for Manufacturers webinar? Well, the event registration is live on the Fuse Hub website, and you can register now by going to Events, Webinar, Marketing for Manufacturers 2. So James, a question for you. Do you have any examples available online of companies you've assisted with brand strategy? In other words, can you give us some examples of companies that you've worked with their brand strategy?
Oh, absolutely. I think the most like impactful one was Manufacturing Day. That was a major example. And yes, I'd be happy to talk about specific examples. It's to the point, it's so pervasive that we found that there's so many gaps in either really alignment and clarity coming from leadership and not really having a brand, blueprint, so to speak, that almost all of our clients have them. And so we've worked with, Hunter Fan Company when they've launched the Hunter Industrial fan line. They compete against big ass fans. We've looked at, and we work at icons of industries down to literally job shops and machining and fabrication. We've worked with the MEP National Network, as I've mentioned. It's funny when you ask me a question like that. We've worked with hundreds of clients since 2003. It's crazy, but there's a lot of them. So DM me on LinkedIn and I'll tell you more.
All right, sounds good, James. Thank you for that. And Kim, you have been listening patiently now for a while. There's a question for you. I have a website, it's a little outdated. Do I need to have it completely redesigned to better position myself in the ways that you've described?
So I guess it depends on what you mean by dated. If the information is good and it just needs kind of a refresher, then I would say that you can do a lightweight redesign of just changing, maybe updating the look and feel. If you really feel like there are some fundamental flaws in your website, like navigation and capabilities and features of the website, like a catalog or getting quotes streamlined, then yes, I would say that you would need to probably go through a fuller redesign process.
Okay, great. Another question that came in, will this webinar be available to view again? Yes, it will. The webinar will be available later today on the event landing page of the FuseHub website. It will also be sent to all registrants via email. That's important in case you were listening and maybe not watching. Either way, you're going to get an opportunity to see this and hear this again. So Kim, I'd like to ask you another question that came in from the audience. It's about success stories or case studies. And the question is, if we want to show success stories on our website, but do not have interesting images of projects, is there still value in showing and telling these stories?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a ton of value in telling the stories, and it's okay to use stock photography if you wanted to be able to kind of give a feeling or an impression, but not necessarily have to be specifically a picture of the project. The other thing that's very, very helpful from an imagery standpoint is a logo. So if you can use stock, find something that really speaks to the feeling or some aspect of it. If it's solar, if you're a solar company, it's okay to have a picture of a sun or something that really looks dappled or something along those lines. So you can do something like that to make it more interesting, but you don't have to. I would highly recommend doing it anyway.
Okay, great. Hey, James, back over to you. A question. Can I implement brand strategy in-house, or am I better served by getting an industrial marketing agency to do it? What are your thoughts?
So here's the rule I follow. I think, there's a point where there's just some of us who have it in us to really do that. We have the capital with the person that we're trying to facilitate that with. So if you're the leader, maybe you need someone to help you walk it out. If you're not, one of the serious questions I have is, do you have the respect and the capital in the organization to actually move the leadership, and really force that clarity, alignment, trust falls, build out that. And so, and then my personal approach is sometimes I'm busy. I'm like, other people have figured this crap out. let me go get help. And I've just found sometimes by just getting that help, you just get massive efficiencies. someone that's done this over and over and over again, maybe that facilitator and agency partner role may be better for you in that case. So it like all things, it's a spectrum, and it's up to you based on some of those conditions.
All right, great. So a new question just came in. This is kind of a horror story, and it happens. And what we're hearing is, I have no idea how much I need to spend on a website, but I've already given a company $10K to start, and all I have is a wireframe. They want another $10K to do the site, but I've seen no design elements. And the question goes on for a while. In essence, how much should I pay? What should I expect? Kim, we'll start with you. You've designed a lot of websites over the years. What would you tell this questioner?
Okay, so when you start a website design, redesign project, make sure that you're paying by milestone. Of course, they're going to ask for a down payment, but it shouldn't be more than I would say tops 25%, but you need an estimate for the whole project. The cost is really going to depend on how much capability you want, what's the complexity, do you have copy to start with, are you writing the copy, do you expect the website firm to, so that's kind of a difficult question to answer. But as far as being able to structure an agreement with a firm, I would highly recommend getting a full quote from start to finish, and then making sure that you're compensating them based on milestones achieved, and also make sure you're getting references. Do not start with somebody where you don't have good references that you can follow up on.
And that's good advice, Kim. Thanks. James, what do you think about this? Again, the issue is that a company has spent some money to get a website developed, $10K. They don't feel that they have seen any results. How much can they expect to pay? Is there anything they can do to straighten this out?
So I think so just a little history here. When we started the organization back, and really like this goes back to about 2005, and manufacturers really weren't, you still would have to convince them about like the efficacy of a website in the first place. So you saw these issues, right? And I think what we really learned is again, it all goes back to, is it really the website? Is it really, is your value proposition really compelling? Have you positioned the brand? Have you really done some of the work that Kim spoke about? So there's that qualitative part of it. But a lot of times we say, okay, we'll build a website. Now what? If you do not have a marketing strategy for it, and you think just you turn the switch and just the magic happens, you're in for it. And so when we, back then we had 4 developers working 4 backlogged each developing websites. We rarely do websites now because it's been democratized. There's so many great technology and platforms. And when we do web projects, it's based on user experience design. It's more advanced. There's content search, functional requirements, automation. Like that's like a next level of web or web catalog or full e-commerce play. So as you look at your business, if you're a small to medium-sized manufacturer, really do the work, honestly, to write it first. That's harder than, it's not web design, that's easy. Just put a sitemap together, kind of looks like an org chart, or put together like what is really the customer, just like Kim said, and what do we want them to do? They want to verify, search, evaluate, take action. Those things need to happen. And if you can get it down on paper, I think you can literally put together something that delivers value to them. And if you have the now what, how are you going to launch it? How are you going to optimize it? Is it going to sit static for another 3 years with not an update to it? And I think, like Kim said, you're not going to get into marketing automation if you don't have a strategy. Actually, you're not going to do SEO if you don't have a strategy to produce content. There's no reason for someone to come back to your website most often. So if it's not a destination, if you don't have a blog, if you're not keeping it up to date, have the now what strategy. And I think that's where you're really looking at that as it's not a website, you want a web strategy. And that's where I'd start.
Beautiful, James, thank you. And the bad news here is we are out of time for Q&A. The good news is there's another webinar that's in the pipeline already. And so there'll be another opportunity to ask questions, and yet still, you can watch the webinar, you can view the webinar, it's going to be recorded. Maybe some of the questions you have are answered therein. You can go back and look at it at your leisure on demand. And then finally, I want to talk about another way to get assistance. If you can't wait, if you have questions about this webinar or about another business or technical challenge that you're facing, you can get assistance from FuseHub 24/7. All you need is a web browser and an internet connection. Go to the FuseHub website, fusehub.com, and when you are there, go to the Manufacturer Solutions menu. Once you're there, choose Solutions Program. And on the pretty page that displays, you're going to look for a button and you're going to click it, and it says Speak to a Manufacturing Expert. If you do that, you will receive an email from me. I will reach out to you and I will get you in touch with that manufacturing expert that can solve your challenge. So on behalf of FuseHub, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time this morning to spend with us on marketing for manufacturers. Again, you can get great information from FuseHub right from your desktop, phone, what have you. Go to our website, sign up for newsletters, follow us on social media. We'd love to interact with you. Again, thank you to all. Take care. We'll see you next month.